When a character is truly alone, staying sane becomes a daily chore. This episode dives into the practical tricks people use to hold themselves together, talking to animals or objects, building tiny rituals, and finding countless ways to stay busy when there's no one else around. Learn about all of this and more in today's episode. Welcome to Writing Rural with Allie, the fiction writer's inspiration station for rural life and lifestyles, from historical to post-apocalyptic, helping you bring your rural stories to life. This is episode number 118, How to Write Characters Who Stay Sane in Long-Term Isolation. Every word was written by Allie, and this episode is currently voiced by AI. Stick around to the end to find out all the ways things could possibly go wrong in your story. Now, let's get into this. While doom scrolling when I should have been writing, I came across a video that inspired today's episode. A short video said that there is a cabin in the middle of nowhere where you can get paid $50,000 to stay for 50 days, but you will be all alone. There is food, water, and everything else you need to survive. It even has electricity. However, no one has made it past 9 days. My kiddo asked if I would do that, and, well, I had questions before I would agree. These included, but were not limited to, can I take my dog? What can I do outside? Can I write while there? Can I take things to read or study? Will someone let me know if something happened to my family if it was needed? What about predators? Do I have a way to call for help if I break my leg or get mauled by a bear? These are important to know if you want to give yourself the best chance, and they would be important to your character too. So let's start with why someone might be isolated. You could go with a Robertson Crusoe type of story where the character is trapped on a deserted island. The apocalypse could have happened, and they are the only one alive in their area of the world. Perhaps they abandon society and live alone in the forest. They could live in an isolated area and only come into a town or village once or twice a year. Bad guys, or even the police, could be pursuing your character and they are on the run. I asked about this on Substack, and some of the scenarios suggested included your character could be alone on a ship in outer space, or even shipwrecked on an isolated planet. Another one was a person left in an evacuated town after it was declared toxic. This could be after a buyout or even a mandatory evacuation. Whatever the story scenario, let's talk about it. Although a heads up, this episode does not include long-term imprisonment, such as in a cell or dungeon, but let me know if you'd like to know more about that. Before we get too far, let's cover what the long-term effects of isolation are on your characters. Your character can be affected by one or several at the same time. Some of the effects are, but are not limited to, time distortion. Days blur together, and it becomes difficult to tell what day it is. Focusing abilities. Focus, planning, and decision-making are not as good or swing into hyperfocus. Emotional stress. Loneliness, anxiety, and depression begin to feel more intense. Losing the ability to see oneself as part of society, social roles fade, and other people can feel less real to your character. Language skills decline. Speech, the ability to recall words, and conversational structure, pacing, or even sentence structure will decline without use. This is the most common effect. Anthropomorphize. This is giving human characteristics or behavior to animals or objects. This is likely the second most common effect. They can even form emotional attachments to them. Think of the volleyball from the Robinson Crusoe movie. Sensory changes. Heightened sensitivity to anything that changes in their environment. This includes sounds, animal activity, and even the weather. Routine changes. Routines become either extremely structured or drift into neglect. Risk-taking behaviors change. Characters may take unnecessary risks or avoid all risks entirely. Existential focus. This means an increased focus on the meaning of life, the purpose of life, and their own mortality. delirium. This is a state of mental confusion where the mind starts trying to fill in the blanks, so to speak, to make up for what normal should be to the characters. Symptoms include phantom sounds, phantom music, and mild hallucinations such as shadows or objects moving, especially in the peripheral vision. Now, I know the first thing you will ask about, and well, everyone wonders about it, boredom. Having lived off the grid and in the middle of nowhere, I feel I'm weirdly qualified for this subject. Staving off boredom is the thing that will most help to keep your character's sanity, and in good news, there are a ton of ways to do this. First up is working. Okay, that sounds silly, but if your character is doing laundry by hand, it takes at least an hour for a small load to be properly washed. Yep, you guessed it. I have an episode about washing laundry by hand if you want to learn more. If they need to heat the water to wash the laundry, well, that takes more time. Then there is cooking meals from scratch, washing dishes by hand, cleaning the house, feeding animals, mucking stalls, and more. These times add up. Now, if your characters are like me, they will get most of it done and save some for next time because they don't want to do it all right now. However, if your characters have nothing else to do, they will not put it off but do it now. This makes for cleaner, more organized homes and less time to be bored. Now, work or chores are not just inside the home or shelter they are living in. Firewood will need to be gathered or cut. Green wood is hard to burn and lets off more soot than dry wood, so green wood is cut and left to dry out for over a year. Dry wood is needed for a fire, especially if there's a fireplace or wood stove. Which means if your character is new to a place, in a plane crash, or anything similar, they will gather firewood or cut up fallen trees that are already dry. Keep in mind, 40 acres of land is enough to cut up fallen logs and trees to heat and cook with, and cutting green trees will not be needed. However, if the character is there for a longer stretch of time, let's say years, they will want to cut up fallen branches and trees shortly after storms while they are still green, and those need to be dried out. Now, I have used a chainsaw with my father and husband's help and spent a full day cutting up storm-damaged trees and got about 2 ricks of wood. For my Canadian listeners, that is 1 cord of wood. I have also used hand saws all day alone, talk about a workout, and only cut about half a rick of wood in a full day. That is about 1/4 of a cord of wood, tools your character might not have in a survival situation. Don't forget that after your character cuts the wood, they will need to move it back to their home. This could be by carrying it, moving it with a horse, a makeshift backpack, or any way that works. If you don't know, a rick of wood is a pile or stack of wood 4 feet high, 4 feet wide, and 8 feet long. Now, if you want to know more, I have a full 3-part series on firewood terms that covers how much firewood your character needs for cooking, for heat, and a whole lot more. Now, these are just some of the daily or weekly activities, keeping in mind that preparing for winter would be a necessity all year round if they have no help coming. Some other options are gardening, taking care of animals, milking animals, making butter, making ways to have light in the winter, mowing the yard, cooking, cleaning the house, preparing food to store for winter, home repairs, and a whole lot more. There are some things that could be done in winter to pass the time. These include planting the garden they will plant in spring, sewing or mending clothing, cleaning and caring for tools, repairing tools, woodworking, whittling, and in many places before tractors, fields would be turned in the winter on good days. This could be with a horse or by hand, but I will say that would be a lot of work to do yourself. Another thing that will be very common, especially in a survival situation, but is true in all situations, is doing things to make their life easier. What I mean is, if your characters make a windmill or a water mill, they could use it to get water from a well or even to irrigate a garden so they don't have to haul water to the garden every day. Hobbies are also very important for keeping one's sanity. This could include writing, wonder where I thought of that one, both stories and letter writing. Your characters get lonely, yes, even the introverted ones, and want to reach out to people. This works best for characters who only went to civilization once or twice a year. People who fear they will never get back to civilization are often prone to writing to loved ones as well. Journaling to someone is another common form. Think something along the lines of,
To my dearest Eva, today I encountered a bear with the tiniest cub I have ever seen. It was an otherwise uneventful day. The northern lights could be seen tonight. I wish you could have been here to see it. It reminds me of the dress you wore on our first date.
something along those lines. Other hobbies include, but are not limited to, drawing, painting, reading, playing an instrument, dancing, listening to music, woodworking, whittling, blacksmithing, knitting, sewing, crochet, embroidery, cooking new things, making herbal remedies, weaving, model building such as boats, puzzles, games, and more. A very important thing your character will need to do is exercise, whether this is walking, working out, chopping wood, or any of the other physically demanding things that can be needed. They need to stay in shape. This helps them not only physically, but mentally. This gives them both something to do and helps to stave off sitting around feeling sorry for themselves, which can lead to depression. Plus, no one is coming and they have to do things themselves, meaning they need to be physically able to do them, whatever that is. Now, there are several other ways to deal with the isolation. One of these is micro goals. These are small, achievable steps to make progress feel like a good amount of progress. Let's say they want to build a wilderness shelter. They will want to make a mental list of the things they need: logs, stakes, tree bark, evergreen branches if possible, a ton of leaves, and rope or grass to make rope. Then make the grass rope, build the frame, add the bark and evergreen branches onto the roof area, and cover the whole thing in a giant pile of leaves for insulation. That feels like a lot, right? Not if I just said they built a shelter. It feels like a lot less progress. This is a simple mental trick that will help your characters feel like they are actually doing things. Another thing that can become very important to them is a daily routine. Maybe they get up, start coffee, make the bed while the coffee brews, and then make breakfast while drinking coffee. After breakfast, they take care of animals, then tend to the garden, and so on. Sometimes people need routine if for no other reason than be mentally keep telling themselves they can get to the next thing, then the next, and next. This helps to keep them going instead of giving up to hopelessness. They can be hopeless after they get to the next thing, and the next, and the next. Now, there is something that can help with loneliness. Can you guess what that is? If you guessed sock, you might need some friends or to go outside and touch some grass. If you guessed a pet, you're right. Dogs are the most common. I have a whole episode on dogs and how you can use them in all kinds of stories, but some highlights are companionship, guarding, hunting, and, in cases like this, giving your character a reason to get out of bed each day. Now, dogs are not the only option. Cats would be another. They could come with your character or even find your character. I randomly get cats out here in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes they are feral cats and sometimes they were dumped. That is actually how we got our barn cat. Other pets include, but are not limited to, horses, goats, pigs, chickens, mice, rats, lizards, turtles, frogs, foxes, and even birds. Some animals, if found young or your character somehow earns their trust, can be pets, or at least a type of interactive companion, are wolves or other wild dogs, lynx, jaguars, mountain lions, and I've even heard of bears becoming friendly in these ways too. You will need to research the area you're writing to find the best match for your story. Many people in isolation, or even way back in the sticks, will be very observant of the things around them. This includes tracking things. These could be birds, their migrations, and habits. It could be other wildlife or even weather patterns. In space, it could be space things, whatever that is. I'm not a space person. In toxic places, these could be effects on them: animals, plants, buildings, and more. Now, most people in isolation will start talking to their animals. My father, in the last few years of his life, only left home once or twice a month. He started talking to his dog often. This is a very common thing and will help your character preserve their speech that can feel like it is slipping away the longer they are not using it. Speaking of talking to animals, remember when we covered anthropomorphize, the giving of human characteristics or behavior to animals or objects? Well, they will interact and talk to them. This can be moving it around, role-playing the object or animal talking back to them. No matter how introverted your character is, humans are not made to live in long-term isolation, and this is the brain's way of coping. Now, in modern times, voice recordings or even videos are possible. Let's say your character is living in an evacuated village or town. They could feel the need to document what is happening and leave messages to others. This could be in written form, audio, or any other way you could think of. A space option would be to talk to the ship. If they are lucky, the ship will talk back, leaving voice memos, journals, videos, and more. They might feel compelled to keep track of things for the greater good, so to speak. They might need to remind themselves what the goal of this mission is and why it is so important, focusing on that. These records will help others to have the knowledge they have gathered if they are ever found, even if that is after they are no longer alive, which leaves both the chance to write for the character and the person or people who will later find the ship and them. Other space things to think about are artificial cues for the time of day, like lights and alarms. As stated, one of the things that can happen is time seeming to run together. Having these cues can help your character to keep a sense of normalcy. And don't forget cognitive stimulation. This could be puzzles, games, doing some math, whatever works for them. Your character needs to keep their wits about them as they are all they have. This is especially true when there is no way to call for help or help is so far away that it could take days, weeks, or years to get to them. The internal dialogue your character says to themselves is very important. Even if they know it's not true, repeating it day after day on purpose can help. There is a scientific reason for this, but it's a bit too long for this episode. Some examples of things that will be helpful to them include, I'm safe right now. One step at a time. I can do this. I will get through this. Help will come. A new day is one day closer to going home. While easier said than done, try to let your character extend to themselves the same grace they would to other people. This means if they would not make fun of another person in the same situation, talking to a dog, then they should not mentally beat themselves up about it. It's not fair to themselves. One quick reminder before we get to all the ways things could go wrong in your story. To help others find this content, pop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. Or if you are watching on YouTube or Substack, drop me a comment and say hello or ask a question. This is the best way to help others find my content. Now for everyone's favorite part, what could possibly go wrong in your story? Likely to go wrong, your character talks to the dog and feels crazy for doing so. Also likely to go wrong, your character struggles with not having electronics for the first several weeks of isolation. Possible to go wrong, something threw off your character's daily routine, and they have a complete meltdown about it. Also possible to go wrong, your character is learning the hard way how to wash dishes and laundry by hand. Unlikely to go wrong, without the walls of a home and background noise, your character starts hearing the noises animals make at night for the first time. They are scared by many of the noises. Also unlikely to go wrong, your character not only talks to the dog, but believes the dog answers them. Improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities, your character's internal clock wakes them up at the same time every single day, even in the cold, dark realm of outer space. While almost everyone will have their internal clock thrown off, there is always that one person. Also improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities, when your character is finally found by people, they have been in isolation so long that they no longer trust other humans and try to fight them off. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy wordsmithing.